Today I'm giving you my top 5 tips to sell your dirt bike for top dollar. Now it doesn't matter if your bike is 2 years old or 20 years old, there's things that anyone can do to increase the resale value of their bike. Now the goal here is to help buyers feel like they're getting a bike that not only looks good, but is in good working order and ready to rip. Tip number 1 is make sure your plastics look good. Nobody likes a beat up looking bike, and plastics are an easy way to spruce up what you already have. Now if you have an older bike, you can simply buy a plastic kit and it's going to make your bike look way newer, 5 years newer, who knows. But if your plastics look pretty decent already and you just have a few pieces that are beat up, you can buy individual pieces as well. So check that out. And when you're doing all of this, make sure you don't forget about the seat cover. So if this thing is torn or faded or whatever, or if it just doesn't look good, it's really dirty and stained, get it replaced. These are inexpensive and it's going to help complete the look with your new plastics. When you buy a new bike, something you can do is remove the stock plastics and seat cover and save those for when you're going to sell it. Now, again, this only applies if you're going to keep the bike for a year or two. You don't want to store this stuff forever, but that way you can get some fresh plastics on there with the graphics and race number that you want. And then when you're done with it, nobody's stealing your race number and you've got a stock looking bike that a lot of people can appreciate. Now you can see on my bike, I made the mistake of going out and riding this before I took the plastics off. So these are kind of scuffed up. So I'm going to show you guys how to clean that up. I've got a magic eraser and some water. That's going to help take some of that away. But again, just avoid doing that. Get some fresh plastics on when it's new. Now, one more thing. If you do have some plastics you're trying to clean up and you have some minor scuffs like this, you can take a razor blade and those little hairs that are sticking up, I'll take them right off. Tip number 2 is throw a fresh set of tires on your bike. To me, nothing makes a bike look old and worn out more than either bald tires or tires that are chunked up or missing knobs. Now you can see these ones on this bike, they're really not that bad, but they do look kind of old. So we're going to show you how much of a difference fresh tires can make, and it's going to be one less thing that the buyer can hassle you over. Okay, we've got our tires on and you can see it's a night and day difference. This bike looks so much better just by doing that. Now we put these Tusk tires on, but we have several options of tires that are inexpensive on our website. So go check those out. Now I am gonna give you guys a bonus tip. You can see we have a few scratches on this rim. So I wanna clean that up. I'm using a black paint pen, but you could also use a Sharpie and just fill in those scratches. Tip number 3 is fix it. So the goal here is to have a bike that is in good working order for your buyer. You want to minimize any negotiating points or anything that could seriously drive the price of the bike down. So with that being said, you're going to want to check out your chain and sprockets. Make sure they're not worn out. Those are easy to replace. We've also all seen that ad that says just needs a carb clean. Number 1, you're not going to be able to list the bike for as much money because the buyer doesn't really know if that's all it needs. And they probably know they can talk you down because of that. So a carb kit is an easy way to take care of that problem. These are 20 to 30 bucks. It's going to take you 1 to 2 hours to get everything cleaned up and this kit installed. Now having your bike start and run easily is obviously one of the most important things you want to fix, but there's some other things you want to look at as well. So if you have any oil leaks, maybe your fork seals are leaking, get those replaced. We've got how-to videos to guide you through that process. You also want to take a look at anything the customer is going to feel or touch. So those are things like your levers. These are inexpensive, and if you've got some bent or broken ones, you definitely want to get them replaced. Now over at the bike, we've all felt the grips on a bike that have been left out in the sun. They're all gooey and gross feeling, or if you have a broken throttle tube, you definitely want to get that replaced. So I've gone ahead and put these ODI lock-on grips on there. They have a nice feel and they clean up the bike. Other than that, we've already talked about the seat cover. Take care of that. Take a look at your foot pegs and your foot controls as well. Tip number 4 is do some basic maintenance. Now, the goal here is to be as transparent as possible and gain trust with your buyer. You want to be able to tell them how often you've serviced your bike, whether it's 3, 5, 10 hours. And if you've done any big jobs like a top end, you want to be able to show them any receipts that you might have. Now for me personally, I like to pull the air filter cover or seat and show them that brand new air filter. I want to point out the fresh oil I've got in there and that my chain is properly serviced and adjusted correctly. There's nothing worse than having 2 miles of slack in your chain. And then if the bike is cold, I also like to pull the radiator cap, show them that it's full of coolant. I've gone to look at bikes that don't have any coolant in there, and for me, that's an immediate no. Now, some people have had horror stories with air filters, so again, that's another reason to show them that stuff. And by doing all of this, it's going to help you come across as knowledgeable and trustworthy. Tip number 5 is buyers like a clean bike. Now, I shouldn't even have to bring this up, but if you look on the internet, you can look at some of the postings and just see that people just kind of hose the bike off and they took poorly lit pictures and the bike looks terrible. You don't want to do that with your freshly cleaned up bike. You've got the service work done, you've got it fixed up. So I'm talking about getting this thing to that factory showroom shine. Now, with that being said, it's going to make it so they have one less haggling point, and it can also help attract potential buyers to your bike. Now, we do have a separate video that covers pressure washing. So if you want some tips and tricks to get your bike super clean, you're going to want to check that out. But the tips I want to focus on today are cleaning up your frame, whether it's an aluminum frame or a steel frame. Now, if you have an aluminum frame bike and you have any areas that look polished up or scratched up, a lot of times this is going to be down by where the boot rubs or your knee braces or anything like that. What you can do to clean it up is use some maroon Scotch-Brite while you're out washing the bike, and that's going to clean it up and give it that brand new look. But another thing you can do with that, you can see we've got some grip tape on the side right here. Now, if I was selling the bike, it's got that little tear, I'll just put a new piece of grip tape on. Now, with your swing arms, you can do the same thing. If there's anything on your swing arm that doesn't look good, take this Scotch-Brite to it while you're washing the bike. Now, on the steel frame bikes, you're mostly going to be looking at the area where the boot rubs. So you do have the option for the grip tape, just like on this other bike. A lot of times the paint just gets worn away. Now, on this bike, I've got the stock cover, but it's looking kind of beat up. So I'm just going to replace it. This one is from a Cherubies, and it's simple to replace. I'm just going to cut those snips or the zip ties. And this should pop right out just like that. And while I'm here, I'm going to clean up the frame. Got a little top coat. Wipe this down. Now that I have everything most of the way cleaned up, I'm going to finish everything off with some SC1. And as you're cleaning everything with this, there's a couple spots you want to avoid. Obviously the brake rotors, and avoid spraying the seat. So those are my top 5 tips to sell your dirt bike for top dollar. Now that I have this fixed up and cleaned up, I'm not going to be riding this until I have someone at my house or I go meet somebody to test ride it. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to give you a few bonus tips. When you go to list this thing, make sure you check other ads and see where you can improve, and make sure your bike is competitively priced. And then again, taking high quality pictures. We already talked about that a little bit, but you want to have this thing well lit, quality pictures, do a walk around video, include that link in your description. And when you go to write the description, just keep it simple. You don't have to write out every little thing. Just write out the highlights, keep it simple, and then you can talk about the details once you have somebody looking at your bike. So again, those are my top 5 tips. If you guys have any other pointers, leave those down in the comments. If you have any questions, leave those there as well. And if you need anything for your dirt bike, you can find it on our website. Go over to RockyMountainATVMC.com or just click the link in the description below. Now, if you want to see more helpful content like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATVMC. Thanks for watching.